Okay, Michael, what motivated you to start Kobold?
It was really Mr. Lang. It was more a who as opposed to what. Mr. Lang, I was at Carnegie Mellon University. I was a very bad student. Well, yeah, but I got in not because of my SAT scores. I got in because of a Nobel Prize winner who visited us in Germany and who got his Nobel Prize while at Carnegie Mellon. And I was a high school student, and I asked him, where should I go to school? And he said, Carnegie Mellon. Tell him I sent you. So that's how I got into CMU. It was never because of my grades. In fact, I was accepted early decision, which means you get in before your SAT scores get sent to them.
Oh, wow.
And once they heard that my SAT scores were really low, they were like, oh, we're stuck with you. So I couldn't really follow the curriculum. It was very hard, and I was not very happy to be there. Mr. Lang, meanwhile my mentor, said, why don't you start a watch company as a class project, and that way you're learning. So when you come back from, he thought I was going to move back to Germany, as did I at the time. When you come back from university, you can come work for me and one day take over ChronoSwiss. So that was the motivation behind starting Kobold. It was just supposed to be a class project, a university class project, an entrepreneurship class. And it morphed into this real company. Because I didn't enjoy myself at school so much, I liked the watchmaking more and selling watches. And a few years later I had a real job at this company, so I had a choice. Do I shut it down and move back to Germany, or do I keep it going and learn a few more lessons on my own dime before moving on to the next project?
Now you said back to Germany.
Yes.
You're originally from Germany?
Yeah, I was born in Germany, and that's where I grew up. Part of the time. I lived in other places too, but that's the whole ChronoSwiss and Mr. Lang connection.
Okay.
But what happened was my company kept growing, and then during the recession, unfortunately, ChronoSwiss didn't fare so well, and Mr. Lang was forced to sell the company, and so that exit strategy was no longer an option. Leaving the States and moving back to Germany and working for him. So I had to really decide, what do I do with Kobold, and that's been the manifestation of everything in the Made in USA movement that we've done has originated from that. We are now making more and more parts in-house because I'm 100% committed to doing that.
Wow, that's that's a lot. That's a serious history right there.
Well, it's a short history.
Oh well, this is, to me it is, to me, and especially when you're saying that you overcoming disabilities and doing something like that, like this, that's motivation for others too.
Yeah, you know what? This is an outlet for creativity. Book smart people have a different aptitude. I have this aptitude. This is what makes me happy, and this is what I'm relatively good at, I guess. So.
Looks like it. It looks like it.
Thanks.
Now we talked about in-house movement, in-house manufacturing.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody, even American companies, they get Swiss movements, and then, or they'll have Swiss made on the watch. I saw two different things I'd never seen before on your watches. With, at the bottom you always have Swiss made on the bottom. You have Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and then I saw Nepal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so when the company started, it was just a one-man show for the first 5 years. I was the only person who worked there. I imported everything. It was usually made by Mr. Lang's factory, and it said Kobold and then Swiss made. And that's because everybody in the world knows Swiss made, and that's sort of a guarantee for high quality. Well, that's changed a lot, unfortunately, over the years, because they've diluted the Swiss made, the Swissness and Swiss made. Yes. Same with the made in Germany. A lot of the stuff now comes from China, and it's still legally called Swiss made or made in Germany. And I wanted to make more and more stuff here in the States, more and more components that go into the manufacture of a watch. And so I decided that we would put Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania instead of Swiss made if a case was made by us, meaning here in the States. And that I would put made in Nepal if it was assembled, not made, the parts were still made by us, but if it was assembled in Nepal. And why Nepal, you may ask? Well, we have a team of Sherpas who climbed Mount Everest with my wife and with me and saved our lives and that of Sereno Finds, my company's ambassador. And we all climbed Everest together, and a couple of bad things happened over the course of 2 years, and the same group of Sherpas saved our lives successively. And in order to pay them back and thank them, Rand thought it was a good idea to teach them how to make watches. So I asked the guys, and they said absolutely they want to learn that because it's a much safer trade. So we brought them to America, and for a year taught them how to make watches here. They lived with us, and we turned them into watchmakers, from mountaineering Sherpas to watchmakers. And these guys have stood on the summit of Everest 16 times.
Wow.
Now they're making watches. And so it gives them a job and a livelihood. They've got